Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. It's September 1st. This will be our chart lesson for today, and we're starting a new month. A couple of weeks we'll roll over to the December contract, so I mean we're wrapping this year up fast. I just don't know where it went. I don't know if it was, maybe it was the virus that you would think that would make it drag by, but it just seems like this year has just flown by. So we're about to head into Q4 trading. So anyway, today's kind of interesting. It looked like we were going to kind of have a range day here for a while, and then we kind of, prices really rocketed on up after lunchtime here. So actually when we started rallying from here without making a new low, first thing you want to do is measure that leg and then look for a measured leg. And that gives you a target of right around 3,500. Actually, 3,525 is what I meant to say there. And you can see it didn't look like we were going to, I mean, here at 1 o'clock you'd say, no way we're probably going to make that. But I've learned that never say never, because you can see how we rocketed up here. And we even surpassed that relatively easily. We pushed right through that level, came back and tested it a few times, and then pushed higher into the cloud. I mean, we closed almost at the very high. So actually prices closed, I guess, right here and right here. So I guess this is in the overnight. They've halted trading. I guess we won't start back till, I think it starts back in 5 o'clock, so 30 minutes or so. I believe that's correct. I don't pay much attention to it after 2 o'clock, so I always forget what that hour. I think it closes at 3:15, reopens at 3:30, trades to 4 and closes till 5 or something like that. I forget the exact hours, but I don't ever trade this, so I don't pay much attention to it. So all I care about is to 2 o'clock, maybe just after. And if I'm managing a runner, a really good runner or something, I may manage that into 3 o'clock, but you have to exit my broker just prior to 3 o'clock or they'll kick you out. So it doesn't matter if you don't exit, they're going to kick you out. So I usually exit prior to that, so I get the exit at the point I want to exit at, really. But yeah, you would have been looking for 2 legs up, and it didn't seem like we were going to get that, but we certainly did, plus some. But anyway, you can see it. There's really 2 legs up, and there's a couple legs in this leg, and we actually had this leg up, and then we had a nice correction here. You can clearly see this downtrend, and then we made a higher low here and started trading up. And early on, I was trading this shorter term channel. It looks valid, like it's going to be valid in the end. I think it's valid, but it really didn't play out, this bigger 2-tiered channel. There's a spike in channel up here, and you can clearly see it looked like we just had a spike in channel going here, but once we broke higher, you have to assume that we're probably going to make a measured move up to the other side. So that's kind of how I saw it. That's what I saw today. You possibly could have looked from here to this point and found, because you can see this channel working up, which probably would have been the same thing as if you played this off of here like so, and you can see that. So you could have looked at it like that as well. So either one of those really gets you to the same place. So it just depends on how you see it. I'm going to take this one off just because it kind of, I'm actually going to put it back the way I looked at it earlier, which was trading up through here, because it does come into play with this midline and this trend line. It kind of helps keep you on the right side, so I'm going to leave it there. But let's back out. We'll go through the trades and we'll wrap up today. Back out just a little bit here where it's a little easier to see. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Still used to using NT7 to some degree. A couple of people have actually said something to me about their chart looking different, and even though they have end of day marked, and They're using NT8. So one of the things to look at, there's actually two things that you need to look at. First, go into your data series and make sure you choose CME US Index Futures ETH. I think that's the first thing you want to do. Make sure you got that, you're using that, those trading hours. That's critical. Then make sure your clock is right. If your clock gets off, that could affect it. And then the other thing is to look at the properties and make sure you click actually maybe it's in maybe that's in the data series too. I'm sorry. Break it in a day. There it is. Yeah, make sure you check that and make sure you have US Index Futures ETH. So yeah, just make sure you got that CME US Index Futures ETH and break it in a day, and then check your clock. And if all those things look right and you're still not matching, I'm not sure what's the other things that could affect it would be your internet. If your internet's unreliable or is a little, you know, you're not getting all the data, or maybe your data provider is not giving you good ticks. There's a couple of different things you could look at, but those are the main ones. And if you have those right and you've got a good data provider and a good internet, your chart should look really close to mine. So try those things, look at them, and see if that doesn't fix it for you. But let's talk about the trades. Like I said, we were really trending down here for a good bit. That's a clear, easy to find two-tiered channel, and we're working down. And 7 o'clock was coming right in here as this thing kind of turns up. But notice the new low, and you get a first entry, and you come up here and you get a second entry short right here. Just wait on this bar to finish and put a sell stop right there. It technically, when it broke lower here, it was a second entry, but I just wait on this bar, see how it ends, and then put your sell stop right there. Or you could let it break here and put a limit order where it would have been here. You may not have got filled on that because this thing took off pretty quickly once it took off. So then we run down and we get an overshoot here. So there's two things that overshoot will generally lead to a break pretty soon. So this one is a little bit concerning, but notice it came up short about an equal distance that it overshot. So that's generally what it'll do. It'll either come up short that amount or it'll overshoot, because the market kind of moves equally. So you'll either overshoot it in an equal amount or you'll come up kind of an equal amount. And so when you got a second entry short here with a relatively bearish bar, this one's real close to being green because I'll really like to see it come back to that trend line. But with this overshoot, it's possible it could turn down here relatively easy. And it does, and it takes on off. We run down here, and you don't want to be trading this both ways. This is a clear downtrend. Look at the EMA pointing down. Look at the clear down channel. We do have the overshoot here, so we're probably going to get a break soon. And we could just get a reversal since you get an overshoot. That's one thing. Make sure you understand that. If you get an overshoot like this, a lot of times the market will just reverse. You won't get a retest. So that's always possible. We start trending up. You can clearly see this channel. There is a failed second entry short right here, and it's a fairly nice one. Actually, it's not, because your failed second entry is right here. Notice that you made your new low, and you actually break lower right there, and you actually break lower again, I think right here. They're close enough that you could just ignore that one, but the second one comes right here, and so you could look at that maybe as a failed second entry short, but you don't want to go long right into the key entry point. So you got to avoid that, because you would expect that channel to win out instead of this shorter term one, but that doesn't end up happening. But you can't risk that, because most of the time this channel is going to win out. Now we did see the overshoot, but I'm still, with having no break at all of that trend coming down through there, I'm not going to risk that. So it just moves on higher. And then you just kind of go sideways. There is a double test here. That's a fairly bullish bar. I would say that's probably close enough to say it closed in its upper third. But the problem is you got a little congestion trading range area here, and you just don't want to go long right into that. It works, but it's not worth it. There is a failed second entry short here, but look how far it is away from the EMA. We do come back and test the EMA, and it breaks lower and turns up. But again, that's just congestion right there, and we're a little ways away from the EMA. And even though it's turning up off that EMA, I just would skip that. I don't think it's worth it. We run up, we make a new high, then we actually break higher here and then turn down. That's a lower high off this high right at the possible. You probably wouldn't have this channel here yet because I used this to draw the channel off the high, and then I drug it down. So I had a good idea of prices maybe coming back to this level when they did. But you could go short here because this is really looking like a range day. And being that far away from the EMA, you got plenty of room to scalp out before you get back. So I like going short there. And then we push through and pull back. And there is a failed second entry long. Actually, there's a failed second entry long right here. Because if you see that high and you get a first entry and a second entry, but you don't want to go short way down here like that with this trend line still in play. So really the way you should look at this is a double top here. And this looks like one leg. So you're probably going to get another leg down. But you're probably going to get a better, that's not enough of a correction. That's just a little congestion area. Notice the no body. Then you got a second bar. There's 3 bars in a row that are stacked side by side. Don't trade out of that. But when it breaks higher and fails out the upper side when it breaks lower, then you could probably go short. And I marked that one. This was the best place to go short. But if you went short right here, I know at least one trader did because he sent me his chart. And he treated that like a failed second entry long. But you can clearly see it really only looks like one move down right there. And so we're not back. Again, you may not have known this trend line was here if you didn't know how to find it off the highs. So I would just say if you didn't know how to find this trend channel, or possibly this trend channel, because you still have to wait till it gets here to know for sure, I would say just no trade right in here, other than you may take this short on this trout. So again, look at this as a double top, and then then you get your first entry, second entry, and you get 2 legs up right there. And so that's probably the center of the pattern. I'd measure it both ways. I'd measure it from there to there, and then I would measure it from here to here. And we don't quite get a measured move either way, but we find that support across there, and we find, of course, that trend line's there. But that's how I would look at that. If you just want a better correction than that. You want something that looks like 2 legs down, and that just doesn't look like 2 legs down. But we bounce down here. It's tempting. Again, it's just a little congestive there, sideways. This has no body. So it's a shame. It's tempting to want to go long right there, but I just think that bar's like 14 ticks. So that's a 16 tick risk right into the EMA out of congestion. Of course, it does take off, but I just don't recommend it. And then we're just chopping our way up here. Just stay out of this stuff until you finally got a little clear channel working lower here. And it's notice you got a new low, first entry, second entry. This actually breaks higher and turns down. So if you're going to enter, that's where you want to enter. And there's actually a little double test here as well. And you can see that working across there, and you made the high, you tested once, you tested twice. There's a couple of different reasons. this one's really close to being green. The key is that when it comes past, it breaks higher, and when it comes past, you still got room to get out here. And if you're not playing it like that's a little trading range or congestion area, then don't go short way down here. It works, but don't risk that. You got to have room to get out because you're really playing this more like a range. It is a second entry short too, but they tend to fail in a range congestion area. So really the way you're playing this is a failed second entry, or I'm sorry, is a failed breakout out of a trading range and a double test. And so you got to get in up here high enough to have room to scalp out. You just do have enough there. I think there's actually a couple of points in there. Comes up here and makes a lower high, and again it breaks higher and turns down, but now you're right down here at the low of what looks like a possible trend line. It may fail on the breakout here of the little channel, and it just ends up going sideways. Obviously if you'd have went short it would have worked, but you don't know that in advance. So just stay out of this until you get a failed break here, and notice you're just going sideways and you break out, and that's the first break of this trend line. So you're probably going to try to make a new low, and then there's also the possibility that there's a trend line down here too. Runs down here, it makes a low, and it tries to go lower again and fails, and gives you a shot right back to the EMA. Again, you start going sideways. Just stay out of that. You may draw your trend line right here, and you break out and you get two legs back to what looks like a trend line. That's a second entry long. And you come back and you get a first entry. It turns down again, and that's another second entry long. And if you didn't like that second entry long, you get a higher low right here on a failed second entry short, and it gives you another chance to get in. And then it's pretty clear this channel is working up here. And notice this is a double top. Count that as a new high. First entry, and you pull back, and there's another second entry long right off this little shorter term trend line. And up here, now you're kind of hung between this trend line and the trend channel line, and you don't want to enter there. Notice how we just work sideways into 2 o'clock. Don't enter in this either. Again, this is just tight congestion, and there's just too big a chance to get hung up in that stuff. So that's pretty much what I saw. You had to really be patient for times, but there's plenty of trades in here today. And this is the thing, the way this prices are just moving up and down, you've got to find this shorter term. You've got to find these little channels and trends, or you'll just get chopped all to pieces in this. So just make sure that you draw these short-term trend lines. You try to find these bigger patterns as well, because that would have helped you on this entry right here. Of course, you already had your break and new low, and a second entry long back to the with plenty of room back to the EMA. So just keep that in mind. Here's the big picture again. It really looked like once you made this leg up and you made a higher low, if we go higher, you're looking for a measured move. But we didn't start going higher to way out here, but you can see we pushed on here, and we easily made that measured move plus some. So never give up on these measured moves, because sometimes it doesn't it's just like this is going to be a range day, and it's not. There's a channel working higher. It looks like it's just a spike in channel here, but turns out this upper side's a midline, and we end up going a measured move higher. So that's what I saw today. Just trying to think see if there's anything else here worth mentioning. I don't think there is. I mean, we're still hovering around this 3,500 back and forth, and that's pretty normal. A lot of times though, prices will hover around those areas for a week or so before they finally either move higher or move lower, depending on what's going on. So we'll probably continue to press higher and make new highs. I think we did. Did we make a new high again today? I think we did by the end of the day. Looks like we made another new all-time high again today. So this is the market that won't quit. Don't argue with it. Whatever it says, do it. You know, just because we think it doesn't look like we're going to get a measured move here, we might go lower. Don't assume that. Draw your channels and your trends and your little support and resistance, and pay attention to them. Follow the rules. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.